Welcome back to Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia. I'm the host, Chad Everett Broshears. I had a couple of technical difficulties on the last recording, so I am looking. Hopefully I won't come across as being slightly distracted to make sure I don't have any technical difficulties this go around. Okay, so we did record on Chat with Chad over the weekend, and I am still in the process of going through some of the wonderful joys of developing, editing, and getting ready to publish the interview with Jim. We went over quite a few great topics. I'm absolutely grateful for your support and patience in the process, as you guys will find out when the video is released or the episode is released. Specifically what we went over, it was a longer video. I personally do find that I'm much more interested in doing longer videos. Because I think that there's a lot more subject that you can cover. You can get into different context of the subject, not necessarily just, hey, I touched on the subject overview. So today's episode is more on daring to create. So many of us seem to spend a lot of our time putting ourselves in a situation where we're tearing other people down, or we're giving some sort of contribution to a hostile environment for creating something different. As I've mentioned in previous videos about crabs in a bucket or ants in a bucket, this is one that I've recognized that a great deal of people seem to spend more time trying to come up with reasons not to be successful for other people, but yet getting upset when other people seem to hold us back from becoming successful ourselves. So now it's time to talk about the courage. You may have done that. It doesn't mean you're convicted the rest of your life that you're going to be stuck in that type of situation. You very well may be in a situation that the childish element that's present when you're tearing somebody else down has no longer has that kind of value you're looking to hold on to. Perhaps you were acting out of immaturity just so that you can feel like you stabilized yourself enough that you can move forward, or at least feel comfortable in your environment that you might be able to start creating. I feel that a lot of things that whenever we get into these types of scenarios where we are trying to, affect other people or create some sort of conversation around people that may be tearing another person down, or negatively directing attention towards somebody else, maybe that you're just trying to plant fertile soil or create fertile soil for you to feel comfortable and confident that maybe you can move forward or do something and change your life. When I say dare to create, it does require a little bit of courage. Like getting in front of a microphone in a video recording and making an episode of something that's going to echo through the eternity of the internet brings a degree of concern and worry about looking good, not saying the wrong things, and having people misinterpret what you have to say. If you can imagine what it's like to try to hold a conversation with yourself. If you've ever been engaged in a conversation with me, you realize that I'm a very conversational type person, but leave me in a room by myself and there's all kinds of different struggles that we all have, or at least that I've had, and affirmed by everybody I share this with, that it's not easy to gauge how to have the conversation in a way that you're not worried that you'll lose your audience. You don't get the human inflection. You don't get those types of scenarios. I bring that up because this is what I'm working on. I want to see better and more constructed opportunities for our future, and this is my current position I can speak on in an area that is not as developed in other areas in my life. So it's relatable to the area other people are trying to grow themselves out to. So dare to create. Put it out there. Do you want to sit there and just be like, one day I'm going to do it? I smoked cigarettes when I was between 15 and 21. I'm now 40. I smoked for a bit. It was very challenging to quit smoking. But I did quit. And the reason why I quit, and I'll tell the story. I actually think that some of my life stories may be entertaining. If nothing else, you may laugh at me. But I'll get to a couple of them, and it all falls into the Dare to Create. So I started smoking at 15 with some of my high school friends. That was on senior skip day. We went over to a friend's house that was in Ridge Manor, because I lived in Brooksville at the time. And they're like, hey, you want a cigarette? And I'm like, you know what? What the hell? I'll take a cigarette. I've never wanted to smoke. But my friends are like, yeah, it's going to give you a buzz. You're going to get high off it and whatever. And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't drink. I didn't do anything at all at the time. So I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'll try it. So I took a hit off the cigarette, and immediately, like the next thing I realized, my face hit the floor because I fell out of my seat. I was so incredibly lightheaded by it. And that was it. It was done. There was no more buzz after that. You know, it was like I kept trying to chase the dragon, as they say in other addictions, but I was chasing this thing to try to get the buzz again, and it didn't happen. But I realized that I was starting to go through multiple packs of cigarettes in the course of a week, and then eventually I was actually in a relationship with this girl Danielle, and or woman Danielle. She was several years older than I was. And my younger brother lived with us as well. And it was the day before New Year, so it was December 31st. And Danielle goes, we're going to quit smoking tomorrow. I'm like, oh, that's news to me. And then she's like, yeah, we need to quit smoking. And at the time, we had our own, like relationship challenges. And I don't fault her for anything. Actually, if nothing else, it helped me kind of realize more things about myself. So thank you for that, Danielle. But my younger brother also, I'm like, Craig, we're going to quit smoking. Craig's like, what? I'm like, yep, we're quitting smoking. Because my younger brother also smoked at the time. The next day, no cigarettes. It was a little bit of a hectic eggshell type day in the house. The following day, again, no cigarettes, but then the attitude started to rise a little bit, and it was noticeable. And then one day, I realized I was 2 weeks in, and Craig had already confessed to me that he did slip and he had had another cigarette. And then I found out from Danielle she was sneaking cigarettes when she was at work. I'm like, well, I'm not going to stop. I'm on this thing now. I'm going to quit. So that I just stopped smoking. It's an interesting thing as you learn in those types of scenarios. I learned some interesting facets about relationships, but I wasn't afraid to not approach relationships again after that experience, because that experience taught me something. I had 3 pivotal moments in my life that made me think something about my relationship with women. And this all builds into something, and I promise I'll get around to it for anybody who's watching live and or just watching the video. When I was in, I would say 8, maybe, no, I was closer to 11 years old. So my oldest brother, his name is Adam. He's no longer with us. He had cerebral palsy. Now, my brother with cerebral palsy, he was bedridden my entire life. We had 24-hour nursing assistants. We had people that were at the house all the time. So my father had started seeing this woman that was at the house, and I had a crush on her, and so did my younger brother, and so did my older brother. So we stayed the night over at this woman's house, go out on the boat, go out and have a good time. And I woke up out of one of her daughters. It was her son's room. And I went out from there and I went into the living room, and I'm like, you know what? I want to go sleep in Linda's bed. So I went over and I heard my father and Linda engaging in something. You can kind of fill in the blanks. But I told myself in that moment when I heard that immediately my heart sank. I knew what it was. I knew what was going on. And I just thought I felt unbelievably betrayed. So I went into her kitchen. I started cleaning, and I did all this stuff. Did all of these things to try to make sure that her, I was dissipating stress. I was roughly 11 years old. I really didn't have, I didn't know how to dissipate stress. I did it like a child prior to that. And then I was in there and I'm scrubbing away and I'm sweating, and I remember feeling the sweat roll down my face. And I'm like, why am I doing this? This is insane. But I told myself at that moment, women don't care about me in the slightest bit. They don't care. I don't matter at all. So I wrote a note, took a little piece of Scotch tape, and I walked over to the door with this little attitude, like, I'm going to show you. I went right to the door, set the piece of paper against it, and I slapped the tape. And I said, I'm out. So I went and I walked out of the house with attitude. It was like 3:30 in the morning, maybe 4 o'clock, and walking down the street barefoot. But I'm telling myself throughout the process that women don't care about me. I'm not going to make a difference in their life, and it doesn't matter. So my father pulls up and he tells me, get in the truck. He convinces me to get into the truck, and I go back with them. But I'm just like, I'm broken. My heart's broken at this point. It's the first time I actually really felt a broken heart. So I told myself that at that time. Now, move into my high school years. There was a girl I was dating at the time. Her name was Paige. I absolutely thought I was in deep, like this. I really felt like I was in love with this woman, or this girl. I was friends with her best friends. We had the same friends in our circle. We were in the same high school, all this stuff. And one day when we were sitting in the parking lot of a movie theater, she, after being together for, she lost her virginity to me, that kind of thing. Like you kind of create this like meaningful bond to a teenager, this really deep thing. And she tells me, Chad, and I'm thinking on bated breath, she's going to tell me she loves me. I can tell she's going to tell me that. And a lot of that's wishful thinking, right? Because I was feeling it. I was ready. I was locked and loaded. I was going to tell her right back. I love you too. And she goes, Chad, I have to tell you something. And I'm like, here it comes. Here it comes. This is it. This is that moment when you really get like the romance novels talk about and all of the great feel-good movies, right? She goes, I want to tell you that every time that we've been together, I thought about your two best friends. And immediately I'm like, what? She goes, yeah, I thought about your two best friends every time. And I'm like, what? Like, it's the exact opposite of what I thought I was going to hear. And at that moment, it hit me. Women will destroy you. Like, they'll take every little bit of, like, care and love that you have, and they'll just destroy you. Because they don't care. And then it built on this old narrative that I had about Linda when I was 10 or 11. That, top of my head, I'm kind of forgetting the year that occurred. And then I'm like, like I don't matter, and they'll destroy me, because I felt so much emotion collapse and just kind of die in the moment. And I kind of reconciled that a bit over time, but I was, spiteful, and I was cynical, and, I was still a sweet, loving guy, but I started to push people out of my life at that point that would get into that emotional space, that intimacy that I had shared with Paige prior to that. And I realized that, I'm like, I had no idea that this was going on. I was just kind of living into this thing. I was being born into the world of heartbreak. So years go by, and the people that know who I'm talking about with this, when I say Danielle, is the girl that I was dating when I was in my 20s, early 20s. There's nothing, like, there's no harm, no foul. Like, we just grew up and we did what we did, but we had a pretty interesting relationship that became kind of controlling. And again, this is not to take away or make her a bad person. It's not at all. We were young and we were developing and learning life. But there was a lot of, like, I need to know where you are, I need to know what you're doing. And it got to the point that I kind of had to lie to her so I could see my family. Oh, this is the girl that I was with whenever I stopped smoking. I used some of that energy from my upset or my frustration in the relationship to help me quit smoking. And I've not smoked since. I have no interest in smoking. I'm not putting anything out there to hurt who she is as a person or anything like that. I actually cherish her a great deal. It's more of just like the periods in our life when we kind of come up with something and we learn something about ourselves, and we start building a reality on that. And with this situation, I told myself 3 different things about women. And all it was is it was growing up in the wilds, and it was the wilds of suburbia, right? No pun intended on the term of the show, but that is the intention of the show, is to give like how we make up our meanings about things that happen in our life, and then we make up bigger meanings about how life is supposed to go. So I told myself these 3 different things about women. I didn't matter. They'd destroy me. And if they did have me in their life, they'd control me. So I didn't have a really strong narration going into relationships. If anything, I was dragging along this massive bit of baggage, and I was abusing the people that came into my life with that baggage without even trying to. I was afraid and I was worried. And then somewhere after kind of living out the wilds of my 20s, I started to realize that there was more to life than to live out of the frustrations, the heartaches, and the hardships, the spitefulness, and all of that. And I was doing everyone a disservice, including the people that I was unwilling to understand, because I wasn't emotionally prepared to understand at the time. So then I started to live out into relationships in a different way. To this current day, I live in a created relationship. I want them to be more meaningful in the way that I can be meaningful with those individuals, or that person, or those individuals. So it's a different thing now, but I'm daring to create it. I'm daring to live in a way that I actually can have something different. Now, we can take it from relationships, because a lot of us do, and apparently, people do like it when I speak about relationships, but we can take it anywhere in our life. You've tried something. I've started and started and closed 3 businesses in my life. I've worked in corporate America, and I've worked in my own businesses. I've learned something in every single one of them, and there's not a moment that goes by that I don't learn something. I'm not stuck in the fear model where I don't want to experience something, or I don't want to learn something, I don't want to develop. So with this is, don't hold people's past against them. Learn from it. And dare to live your life. Dare to know that you can lose the weight if you want to lose the weight, if that's what you need to do. Dare to know that you may be able to, add an extra spin to your backflip, or whatever the heck it is that you're doing, but you got to dare to try it. Not that you busted your face once and then you don't want to do it again. You've got to fail your way into success, and that's what I've been doing, pretty much my whole life. I was second to youngest out of 6 boys. There's a whole hell of a lot of competition that takes place, and a whole lot of failing, especially with me being the outcast of the family and not looking like the rest of my brothers, and being the one that my brothers would pick on and tell me that I was adopted. And my father occasionally would tease me and say that I was the doctor's kid, because I didn't look like my parents. I didn't look like my brothers. I do now in my now in my 40s, and but to an extent. But just you got to fail forward. And I've done that, and I'm beyond grateful for the relationships that I've had experiences of in the past. I know now, because I freed myself with knowledge, that women do care, and that they're not out to destroy me, and that they're not out to control me, and that we all do what we do because that's how we've learned to live this life. But at least we're trying enough, and if you're with me in this journey, and it's not just my journey, it's your journey, we're on this thing together, dare to live into it. It's a really interesting place to be. People think that wisdom is like as if it's something you're either born with or you don't have. And it's not the case. Knowledge is awesome, but without power, knowledge is nothing but trivial. And if anything, it can be more of a consequence versus a benefit, or a negative and a cost to you versus a benefit. But if you have the ability to have a higher likelihood of predicting an outcome and stay calm in the process, or less reactive, that's what we start to refer to as wisdom. You have to just be willing to step into it. It's not an accident that you become wise. You can say the accident's what may have been the initial, but it's the way that you view it and the hindsight that gives you the ability to possibly see patterns that expose something about the future. So with that, I'm not convicted by my past relationships in that sense. If anything, again, I absolutely appreciate these people. Absolutely appreciate them. And there's more, there's more challenges in the process, but the other things that went on, but they're not necessary for now. I don't need to enroll you in how, upsetting and challenging each one of those scenarios were, and the overcoming it, as much as just know that I went through it. And for the people that have been involved in my life that do see this, they know I care. I do care. I care a great deal. And I want to see us all have something. I want to see us all grow and develop. But it does take something to get there. You gotta want to. And it's like kind of getting past, a lot of things. Getting past all kinds of prejudices, or getting past the things that you made up in your mind that there's something that means something there. I just got a flashback of getting punched in the face in 4th grade for no reason other than the fact that I was a white kid. I do not and will not in any way ever hold that against somebody. Actually, if anything, if I could run into him now, I'd buy him a beer. I'd want to know his childhood. I'd want to know his experiences. Why not? I happen to think that there's a lot of really good people out there, but sometimes we got to get out of our own damn way to see it. We're all going to get where we want to be if you just do it every single day, 1% to get there every single day. Keep trying, keep pushing. Yeah. Well, guys and gals, I appreciate your time. I'm going to be publishing the chat with Chad and Jim soon. I'm just doing finishing up with some more of the editing of it. It's not a whole lot of editing, actually. It's just product licensing and stuff that I need to finish up. But I think that there's going to be a lot of values in that, as far as like how to overcome an argument with somebody else in a way that you're not the winner and neither are they. And how to avoid straw manning people in arguments, and how to steel man them for better understandings, and not make such great divisions just simply because we want to win an argument. So that's in that. It's about an hour-long video, and I think that if you guys enjoyed it as much as Jim and I did, you'll probably watch it a couple of times. So thank you guys, all of you, so much. Share this video with the person in your life that you know can benefit from it. Actually, you know what? I'm going to tell you one more story, and then I'm going to let you go. This is one that is one of those dare to try to create. So I was a little overweight in my youth. I refer to myself as being kind of chunky. I wasn't exactly, the stallion amongst men. I wasn't anything like that. I was the cute, gentle, and I was everybody's friend. And I wanted to be. I wanted to know people. So after I finished high school and I got into my later teens, I started really lifting weights a lot. Now, I started lifting weights in elementary, but, like watched Arnold Schwarzenegger, and my older brother wanted to be a trainer, and it's kind of like how you create that, right? So I started doing these, like I worked my ass off. I really worked out hard. And I tried everything I could, but I spent more time in the exercises than I did the diet and stuff like that, because I didn't know any better. I was a little kid. And there was a thing called Iron Dog, which is in Homosassa and Crystal River, Citrus County, that they were doing bodybuilding competitions, but they were novice level. They weren't amateur, nothing like that. It was not a high-level regulation. There was no drug testing, anything like that. I wasn't doing any drugs. The worst I did was ephedra. If anybody remembers that back in the day, probably created a little bit of harm there. And it's like a hydroxycut type thing. It's, for people more modern day, I don't even know what the hell the energy supplements are anymore, other than in a can. It's, soda-like. So I did this bodybuilding competition. I did several of them to lead up to the finals. And I was in pretty decent shape, and you may find this funny, and I hope you do, because I thought it was funny at the time, and I still laugh thinking back at it. So I finalized, and I was going to to do the final competition, and it was right on the river in Crystal River. And a beautiful layout, and it was put on by a local radio station and somebody else that was doing the Iron Dog competition. So I finally finished. I was 20, and it was actually in the rules that you had to be 21 in order to compete. So I tried to get everybody in my family to go with me. Now, the only two people that ended up going with me was the girl I was dating at the time, Sonia, and my best friend, still to this day, my best friends. I was 20 years later. Adam. I could not get my dad. I could not get my mom. I couldn't get my brothers. I couldn't get my childhood friends. I couldn't get anybody, my best friends, other than Adam, to go. And so we go to this thing, but the night before, we're sitting out on the porch and on my parents' house, in which I still lived there at the time because I was. So sitting outside, and I was talking to my brother and one of my childhood friends that grew up right down the street from us, and they were having themselves a good time, and I was a little bit more straight edge at the time. And I'm like, guys, you should go. And they're like, well, yeah, we'll probably go, Chad, whatever. And then, they never really took me seriously. If anything, my younger brother was extremely sarcastic towards me at times. And this is one of those times. And they go, you should stuff some socks down your Speedos, Chad. And I'm like, one, I'm not wearing Speedos. And two, at that time, I used humor to be accepted. So I'm like, you know what? I might do that. And I thought about it overnight. And we laughed about it on the front porch, but I thought about it overnight. And then in the morning, sure enough, I put on the shorts that I had to wear. I got ready, and I grabbed a tube sock that was rolled into itself. And I stuffed that down my shorts. Well, and we went out, and I was in pretty good shape. If I even now to this day and separate myself, I probably should have taken third place. There was a big guy on there. It looked like Goldberg, if anybody knows who that guy is. Big dude like him. And there was this other guy that was just like 2% body fat, 235 to 240 pounds at 5'10". The guy was obviously on steroids. So we're in this hotel room, and we're getting ready to go out before, we started doing our posing, right? And I've never posed, none of that stuff, right? The posing I did was in front of the mirror, and it was not professional, right? And, so, I'm still young in this. I'm not used to having a body that people are like, oh, you look like you work out. I'm used to having a body where I'm kind of like, hey, eh. So I think this is a big thing for me. And I come from having social anxiety. In my teen years through high school and in middle school and high school, I had social anxiety. It was actually pretty crippling. So this was a major thing. I had to put myself out there. And I'm like, screw it. I'm going after it. I'm going to dare to try this on. I want to experience something. So we're in this hotel room, and it's mixed. They got women and men in there. And this guy, he comes over, and I'm over against the wall. And I got these resistance bands, and I'm trying to get a good bicep pump on. And this guy comes over, and he goes, hey, man, you look like you're in pretty good shape. And this guy, I look like a freaking child compared to him. This is this guy, Gary. And he's like, hey, you do me a favor? And I'm like, all right, he's my competition, right? He goes, you do me a favor? And he hands me a bottle of baby oil. You can see where this is going. He gives it to me, and he goes, can you get my back? And now, literally, this is about as far as he could go. So he needed help. And I'm like, there are women all over this hotel room. Like, why do you want me to help? I'm like 20 years old. This is back in let's see, that was 99, 2000. Yeah. I'm like, oh, what? So he goes, hit my back, man. And I'm like, if either I comply and he's just like, okay, he's nice and he doesn't do any harm to me, because he could probably physically harm me quite a bit at this point, and this is going through my head, right? And then I'm like, you know what the hell? I was like, all right, man. And it's like those dainty, there's a little bit of oil on his back and then my fingertips. And I'm like, you're good. I didn't want to oil him up really good and then have him beat me because his back's shinier than mine. I didn't want to ask him to put oil on me, and I'm sitting here looking at I don't know what the hell to do here. So I just did the best that I could. And I just look into the bathroom's doors open, and the women are in there oiling themselves, they're bathing suit and all that. It's not Caligula and debauchery and stuff. It's everybody's in bathing suits. And this guy's I look in there and I'm like, why didn't you ask one of the girls to do it? I open up the front door and I'm already feeling self-conscious because this dude is freaking massive compared to me. And then I open up the front door to this hotel room. There's a back door that goes straight out to the river where we're going to do our competition. And I open up the front door because I wanted to go out the front. And as soon as I open the door, here's this 6'3", 310-pound Goldberg looking son of a gun doing one-arm push-up with a girl sitting on his back. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? That guy should win this competition, which I believe he should have been second place. Gary, the guy that I just oiled up, should have won first place, in which he actually did. And then here I am, and I'm like, oh, God. But I'm like, I'm not leaving. I can't leave. So I decided to go ahead and go out. So we did the competition. By the way, the girls got to do the song, like their dance was to Sublime, What I Got. Not a bad song. And it's a decent one you could dance to. And then there was our song, What the Guys Got. Now here comes Mandy River. She was a radio personality. She gets up there, and she's a gorgeous woman. So I'm sitting there. I've got, the entire time, by the way, I had this tube sock thing stuffed in my shorts. So Gary goes up. He does his little dance. This Goldberg son of a gun gets up. Now we're on a pontoon platform type boat setup. And this guy gets up. I forgot his name now, and I'll probably remember it at 3 o'clock because I wake up screaming it as if I've got Tourette's, right? This guy gets up, steps over, and the freaking entire raft, the entire platform shifts to his weight. I'm like, that is one massive dude. He goes up, he does some weird dance, but he's got some bodybuilding experience in the background, so he poses pretty good. And then I go up. Mandy asked me a couple of questions. I'm fumbling through it. I'm trying to figure out the next joke to try to really relieve the studio. Or not studio, I'm sorry, my dog jumped in here. To relieve like the audience. And there's at least 1,000 people in this freaking audience, all facing back towards the river and looking at us. And then the next thing you know, I'm like, she goes, all right, well, if you're ready to get started, let's get started. And I'm like, let's do this thing. And I start doing like this real rigid kind of like, I'm like a G.I. Joe action figure kind of move. You know, something you would see like a well-polished comedian do, but yet at the same time, you're like, this guy is not that funny. And then I do this little hand gesture thing like this, and I go down my front, right, over the chest, down my abs, and then straight into my shorts in front of the crowd. Mind you, again, there's social anxiety. I'm overcoming it, but these are the things that I use to overcome it. I reach in there, I grab this freaking tube sock, and I pull it out. And I act shocked. Half of the audience, you can hear them gasp over the music. The other half of the audience instantaneously starts laughing. And I'm like, did I do good? Was it funny? You know, I'm like sitting there holding this thing, looking at it like shocked, like, oh my God, I've got this, where did this come from? And then I remember yelling out, sorry, I didn't mean to disappoint you guys, as I went back to sit down. Now, granted, that's a very good possibility why I didn't win the competition. But it gives you like, look, I put it out there, man. I was really like, I have to overcome these challenges of my past. And if I don't, I'm going to be stuck with this pattern of behavior for the rest of my life. Because every day you exist with that like social anxiety is another day you create another way of living. It's a coping mechanism style to the social anxiety. And I wasn't okay with living that way anymore. I didn't want to feel afraid of people I didn't know and be afraid of all strangers and need to have somebody with me everywhere I went just so that I had somebody I could talk to that would calm me down enough that I could meet other people. Now it doesn't matter. I'm dogs in the park. I'll talk to anybody. I don't give a damn where we are. I will talk to anybody. But then I'd go into not cold sweats. I'd burning up, sweating like crazy because I was so concerned they were going to judge me negatively. So this is what I mean by dare to create. Like, create something in your life. You know, like I've come from like these horrible ideas about the way that women would treat me in my life. And they won't, right? Like some will, some won't. But it's up to me and who I am and how I am as a person in order to like be able to navigate those type of relationships in the future and if I want to venture into them or not. And the same thing goes. Am I willing to, step out and get on a dock and pull a tube sock out of my shorts just to try to get other people to enjoy the time that they're having at that moment? So to conclude the whole little competition thing, Gary won first place. That big old Goldberg son of a gun, he got second. And a guy from FSU got third. They stopped announcing at that point. They didn't bring up anything about fourth place, anything like that. But I actually got to walk away as a winner myself because I walked away that it was the first time I did it and I tried. So with that, that's I'm going to leave you guys on this story. But I hope that there's a degree of value that you bring from it. And, please share this video with the person that, if anything else, to laugh at me because I'm a freaking goofball. I just don't always come across that way. But I'm not just somebody who just tries to create insightful thinking. It's I want to live as well-rounded as possible and with everybody. That we all bring such this beautiful opportunity, but we could also strip it away in a moment by just being so angry and so upset and not wanting to, bridge the gap of distances and differences. So, all right, I'm going to leave you with that. Share this video with the person that would benefit from it, that may be struggling with some of those challenges. I appreciate all of you. I really do. And in the meantime, we're in something, we're all in this together. Let's create something beautiful together. So with it, comment in the comment section, whatever you may be taking away from it. If nothing else, just laugh at me. As far as I'm concerned, it's still, why not? I'll share these wonderful little weird stories that I've had in my life. So with that, this is Chad Everett Brochures. I'm the host of Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia. And we'll be doing at least maybe 1 or 2 more Chat with Chads this week. Look for the first release here soon, okay? All right. If you are, and please, you can easily support this channel by simply going to the YouTube channel and the podcast that I put out as well. Like, subscribe, and get some views on those. They'll help out on the back end to help make this more of a stronger possibility more frequently. All right. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.